Well, good morning again, More Church. Man, happy Father's Day to everybody.
Yes.
Aaron and I are super excited today.
Really going to be fun
because
today.
we have our dads here with us on Father's Day.
Brought to you at the speed of live. No cuts, no retakes.
Yeah.
It is going to be.
Yeah, what you get is what you get.
Hey, I'm not going to lie. We had Trust and I had to prod a bit to make sure that our dads were getting on board with this effort. They weren't running up here to do this, but we got them here, and they've got some gold to share with us today.
So we have my dad, Jonathan Baba.
Yes. Yep. I admit it. Yep.
I admit it. And Aaron's
And
dad,
my dad,
Jerry Barth.
Jerry Barth.
And man, both of these guys, they attend More Church.
They do. They attend, but not just attend. They serve. They help in a multitude of ways that you guys see on Sundays where they're ushering and serving in kids, but also ways that you don't see. First thing that comes to my mind, everybody knows the generosity series that we just finished up with, the staircase of more. Remember the big blocks that I walked up, that Trustin walked up. These guys build it. I tell you, these guys spent a lot of time. Jonathan put that thing together.
Yeah.
He constructed it. It's made to last through a tornado or hurricane.
Yeah, that's true.
And my dad sanded it down, put the finishing touches, and made it look pretty. And so that's one of many things. The merch thing out front, man, they do all that stuff.
Any prop, any piece of furniture, all the rolling crates these guys have built,
that's right,
stained, put together, and
true.
Really help make the church what it is.
Yeah, that's right. And they prefer it that way, it seems. They'd rather work behind the scenes and get things done rather than be out front and center.
I think we got Jerry to paint half the North Campus, too. Jerry was
Actually true, yeah.
I get to do it.
If he wanted to, he could be a master painter, I think.
Come from a long heritage of painters, both grandpas and my dad, and so it's in our DNA, I guess.
So you guys also serve in a lot of different areas. You serve in kids
right
here at the church, and then help with Legends of More.
We sure do.
And
so, Legends of More.
Any of my Legends of More people out here?
Yeah. 50 and older, you are our people.
So we keep
Aaron and I keep say 60 and
Aaron and I keep fighting. Yeah, keep the age 60 because you and I keep getting closer.
We're getting
to the
closer.
Of being it.
Let's push that back.
Okay, well, man, lead life group. We share in a life group, leading life groups. So
leading life groups.
Throw a pitch out there for life groups.
That's true.
Right.
So the theme of the day is like a rock, and it's not because of only the incredible 80s Chevy commercials, right? But it's the idea that for Aaron and I, we grew up with dads that kind of embody that, the idea of that they were solid and steady and really left a legacy for us of living a life like a rock, not just because you heard a Bob Seger song, but because you read what the Bible says. And so we're still in this series called All the Way Up as we're talking about Jesus's most famous sermon, the Sermon on the Mount. And one of the last portions of Scripture that Jesus teaches is found in Matthew 7, starting verse 24. I want to read it, and it's going to kind of be the framework of what we're going to talk about today. Jesus said this, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the wind blew and beat against the house, yet it did not fall." Why? Because it had a foundation on the rock. "But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who builds his house on the sand. The rain came down, and the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash." And so this is a really powerful portion of Scripture. I'm going to teach on it later in the series, but there's a wise man and a foolish man.
Right.
And the Bible talks about that there's storms that are going to come in to our life, and we have to make sure as dads that we're building our home, building our life, building our family on a firm foundation, on the rock.
Exactly, and all four of us are dads up here, obviously. And Trustin has a 7 and a 9-year-old.
Yeah, I got some little kids.
Add 10 years, add a decade, and I've got a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old, right?
Yeah.
And so we're dads, but you guys are dads, obviously, to grown men.
Of 25-year-olds.
Of 25-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Or those that act like we're 25.
Yeah, maybe.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think that's probably true. And so today we're going to have a conversation amongst the dads to make sure that we're building our families on the rock.
Yes.
That we're not just building our families, our lives on the sand, that when a storm comes in, it just gets blown away. And I know that you guys have both worked really hard, but I can imagine that there were moments that when we were growing up that things got a little crazy.
100%.
They got a little high end.
Absolutely. And so you guys are going to get to hear some of those stories that maybe Tristan and I are like, no, we don't need to talk about that. But these guys might want to shed some light on some things that happened back in the day.
Now, Jerry told us that Aaron was getting hurt all the time growing up.
Yeah, we threatened to put a football helmet around him like till he's about at least 3 or 4, because it seemed like every time he made a turn, he'd crash into the wall and ended up in the ER all the time. And so, yeah, he kind of followed the Calamity Jane syndrome, if it Murphy's Law, if it could happen, it would happen to Aaron. But he survived, it's...
Yeah. I mean, I've got all my fingers and toes, barely, but
Right.
they're there.
And there's another instance when he went to camp and with another friend from church, but for some reason this other fellow didn't care for the name Barth and kind of turned it into a regurgitation phrase like barf.
Right.
Yep.
And just relentlessly beat him with that barf, hey barf, hey barf. Well, Aaron could take so much of that, so he beat the crap out of him, beat him to a pulp. And they both got tossed out and sent home.
Yeah.
But the next week in church, he looks across the congregation. There's a kid in a sling over here, and he's got a splint finger, and that was the price they had to pay.
Well, hey, we're not advocating for that. We got youth camp coming up in 2
yeah.
days, so we're not saying that was supposed to be omitted from this conversation.
Yeah.
Just go as friends, okay?
But don't learn as I've done, and don't do it.
Yeah.
So but also, from what I understand, this last week, Jonathan, tell us a little bit about your boy back in the day. Seems to me like he had some fun projects going on.
Well, there was always something happening all the time. Something was happening. Something was cooking. He had me doing something just like he does now, in fact. but we were quite engaged with each other. I was involved with him quite a bit. Our situation was quite a bit different than Jerry and Aaron's, because early on I got sick, you could say, and I couldn't work. And so I was at home with him a whole lot. And that gave me the opportunity to interact with him in ways that many fathers weren't able to. So I wrote down this story just so that I could get it straight to you, because you would appreciate it better straight than crooked. So when Tristan was in elementary school, starting around the age of 3rd grade, I would go to his school once a week and have lunch with him. And then together we'd go out on the playground and have recess. Well, at his school in the 90s, there was no need to check into the office, believe it or not. I could go straight to the cafeteria and meet up with him, and then we would just do what we did on the playground. I would typically take an apple with me and sit with Tristan and his friends while they ate lunch. And then off to the playground we'd go for about 20 minutes of chaos, basically. Now, Tristan was usually a fun-loving, party-starting kid back then. It shouldn't come as any surprise.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah, nothing's changed at all. So, and for an example of this, when he was in the house in our small neighborhood, there was nothing going on outside. It was quiet neighborhood. We lived in a small subdivision, quiet as could be. He'd go outside, here comes all the other kids, and the ruckus would start. That's just the way it worked over and over. It wasn't just a one-time thing. It worked that way regularly. So anyway, on this one occasion at his school, on the playground for recess, Tristan and another boy decided they were going to race each other. And I was delegated to be the race starter. I was kind of like the official. All right, so they lined up, picked the finish point, and off they went. Well, okay, I was very used to Tristan and his ways. He seldom surprised me because he was outside of the box most of the time. That was kind of the routine, as you know him now. But on this day, racing this classmate, I was not only surprised, I was shocked at what he did. So okay, I shouted go, and off they ran towards the finish line. At the end of the race, for a reason that remains a mystery to this day, and maybe he can clear it up for us all right now.
I don't know.
He tackled the classmate. He tackled him, knocked him to the ground. What looked like total domination of this child. It was sort of like the Olympics mixed with the UFC or the WWF. That's what it seemed like. Those two things.
So
combined.
so the guy won the race, but Trustin won the fight.
Yeah. Well, I guess. So I'm standing there and I'm watching this play out in utter disbelief because we kind of knew where he was headed, but this didn't match the way it was supposed to go. So anyway, I'm standing there watching in disbelief, and I'm thinking to myself, I get to meet the school principal today. But nothing happened. Nothing happened. The kid got up and he shook it off, and that was all right. But I did ask Trustin the burning question, why did you do that? Well, I don't know that I got an answer, but I did make him apologize to the kid, and life went on. That's my story.
There you go.
I think
now it's your tune. Let's clear it up for us.
I think he just beat me in a foot race in front of my dad, so then I had to kick his butt. I think that's probably.
So there's a couple of cool
word.
stories from when we were little. So anything that you want to share that happened during our teenage years?
Yeah, there's Aaron.
Keep it light. Keep it clean. Don't go too deep here.
He had several cars in his teenage years, and they all seemed to end up in the ditch or wrecked or for some reason. What I really think happened is every Friday night they would sit in front of the TV and watch Dukes of Hazzard. I think Bo and Luke had a lot of influence in the way he drove in those days.
A little Knight Rider action.
Anybody remember Dukes of Hazzard? Yeah. But anyway, I think that probably steered him into the aviation industry, knowing that it's safer in the air than on the ground.
There's no ditches in the air.
There's no ditches in the air, but hey, you can go fast in the air. And I was about
and
going
he likes
fast.
speed.
Yeah. That's good, Dad. That's fun. Jonathan, what about you? Do you have any interesting teenage stories?
Yeah, there's lots of teenage stories. Hold the mic on. There's lots of teenage stories. We just dealt with it every week, sometimes every day. Teenage. Let me back up. I want to tell you a little story about what happened on the way home from our pool one day. Okay, can I do that?
Sure.
It was a real short story. Well, we joined a community pool called the Cabana Club, and I'd take them to the pool and we'd have fun. And so one day we're on the way home from that pool, and I didn't put on a shirt. We only lived about 1.5 miles away. So we're coming into our subdivision, and right next to us, pulling out of the subdivision, was this guy. He threw his litter out of his car right onto the road right in front of us. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh, I remember. And so
Okay.
Dad makes a point and yells at him.
So I stop and I look at that guy and I say to him, you better get out of your car and pick up that litter. I'm getting out of this van. And he just
Van.
Right.
And,
That's right. It's a van.
And
Well, intimidating.
We might have a chance to talk about this later, but he kind of triggered me. I got triggered. He's littering in my neighborhood, and I'm not having it. And so he got out and he cleaned it up. Who knows where he threw it next? But it wasn't in our neighborhood.
No. The guy got out and cleaned it up. The guy got out because he won it first, so then you got out. And I think he thought you were going to come and wreck his world. So then I'm sorry, sir. And you got out with no shirt on after yelling at him. So then he picked the trash up and threw it away.
Well, clear up the story. So that was the kind of thing we were kind of used to, those incidents one way or another. And it reminded me of something though, because it's Father's Day and we're talking about dads. It reminded me when I was thinking about that story. I remember one day my dad used to take me to school every morning when I was in elementary school. And one day my dad pulled up to the school, and there it is, right in front of us, him and me. There's this group of kids bullying another child. Well, my dad parked the car right in the school driveway. He got out of the car, and he had words with those kids that were bullying that other kid. You know, that made an impression on me. I was
Right.
watching my dad, and I never forgot that he didn't just ignore that incident. He got involved, and he did what he could do in that moment to help something. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Jumped
So
out,
good.
got
Yeah.
involved.
And that's carried on because I know numerous stories that happened last week with my friend getting out and helping people out.
Yeah.
That's just it's been paid forward numerous times. It's cool.
So, as dads, I think that there's a lot of funny stories that we can look back on. Things that are some enjoyable now, and things that are me and Aaron are like, oh God, let's not tell that story.
Exactly.
There's a lot of those different moments, but a lot of the storms and the problems that we face in life are things that are out of our control. That Bible verse that I read, it talks about how storms are going to come.
Right.
And you can't schedule that stuff. You can't plan that. Sometimes there's difficulties that just come up in life, and so. I know that in you guys' household, there were some storms and some in ours that were outside of our dad's control.
Yeah, for sure. As a teenager, and even before my preteen years, I remember my mom suffers from degenerative disc disease and fibromyalgia. She has had numerous surgical fusions on her neck where they take bone grafts from her hip and move everything out of the way through her neck and use those as vertebrae in her spine. And through that, she would have to wear 3 to 4 months of hard Philly collar, is what they called it, just to keep her stable. And again, multiple, 3, 4 surgical fusions over the years. And so that led to my brother and I, Ben and I, to having a mom, but having a mom who sometimes was a shell of herself. Sometimes she was on drugs and for pain and in the hospital for quite a while, extended periods of time. And during those times, my dad did what he did. He worked hard. He was the stability in the family, at least in many ways, but financially. And so where we lived in rural Ohio, there was only a few avenues you could take, whether you're a farmer, whether you're working in retail in a small town, or whether you're working at General Motors. Well, Dad worked at General Motors, and when he did that, he was on second shift. And so we wouldn't see Dad a lot of the weeknights. And that combined with my mom's health made it a bit of a challenge for us, Ben and I especially, just trying to figure out how to navigate through teenage years. But I will say, on Dad's lunch break, he chose to have dinner with us every night when he was gone.
Over the phone.
Over the phone.
Over the phone.
Over the phone.
Right.
Yeah. And that meant, at the time, I'm like, oh yeah, Dad's calling again. It's as a teenager, you don't think much of it, but when you look back and you realize, now I've got a job. Now I'm trying to be the stability of my family. I realize he didn't have to do that. I know a lot of dads that probably might not do that, and instead they might want to go off to their lunch break and do whatever they want to do on their lunch break. But Dad didn't do that, and he called us and made it a point to make sure that he was present, even when he wasn't present. You know what I mean? And so that was a definite thing that stuck in my mind for years.
Yeah.
Right. Plus, his mom was challenged in math, so I could help him with his homework.
That is true. That was my brother and I we were not interested in math. We didn't like it. It didn't make sense to us. Fortunately, Dad was able to keep us moving forward in the mathematics. And I prayed for years, God, please let my kids understand math, because I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he delivered.
No, and some of those scheduling things and health issues are outside of our control, but as dads,
And
we have
Aaron-
to choose to be stable.
Right. And Aaron had a fairly rough junior and senior year. He had tripped over a hurdle in, I think, his sophomore year,
Right.
and he'd stoved his wrist. And he said, I just stoved. Well, the following fall, he's still fighting with it. And they said, what's wrong with that? Well, long story short, it was cracked. And the navicular bone was cracked. It already started to heal. So they had to set him up for a surgery. And before the surgery, he came down with mononucleosis. So he had to wait, hold the surgery off until this mononucleosis went away. So he was home. He had tutors. He had the surgery eventually. He had a bone stimulator. All the while, missing out on his football career that he was pursuing. This put him way behind to the point where he said, I'm only going to try my senior year. That year, the football team went to state and won it.
Yeah.
So that was not easy pill to swallow for Aaron too. And other issues that came along, he was a little bit frustrated, but one thing we never gave up on was being involved in church. I mean, all the things we sacrificed, that was one thing we would not budge on, and we had him drugged to church, even if they didn't want to go. But the dividends pay off today because we see the fruits of it. And
and it's so good.
They learned how to serve. Not just to go to church, but they also got involved in service. And both our boys learned how to play the drums on their own and ended up on the stage playing drums for the praise team, praise band. And that was a hook, one of the things that got them involved, seeing that they could be of service, do something for the Lord. And a lot of this other stuff kind of fell away because they had purpose.
You stayed faithful. He stayed faithful while we were teenagers and through some of the turbulent years, the whitewater years, as you like to call them. But also you stayed faithful after we moved out and after we got married and had kids. Tell him, Dad, a little bit about just recent history in the last 4 years of what happened and how you were able to stay faithful and be the dad that you are.
You're referring to Ben?
Through loss, yeah.
There's nothing worse than we received a call from the Pinal County Sheriff Department at work about 8 o'clock in the morning telling you that your son had been killed in a traffic accident. That's just a gut punch. I mean, that just like a stab in the gut. And of course, that was horrible. That part of our life ended right there. I mean, it just devastated us, and that part is gone.
Yeah.
But we had always relied on the Lord for our foundation, our rock, our stability.
Yeah.
And we had that in our history. All those years growing up, all the boys in the family was always founded on the rock. And we knew that this was going to be a tough situation, but we knew we were going to get through it. And that we will see him again because he was a faithful Christian father, wife, husband, son, and we're so proud of him. But we say, Lord, this is a tragic situation, but we're not the only ones going to go through this.
Right.
And we see people this morning and hear stories. You've gone through it today. You're in it. Just encourage you to stay strong. Hold on to that anchor. Stay faithful. Find prayer partners. Find praying mothers, grandmothers, anybody that you know that you can join with to help. We're in it together, right?
No, it's true. And I remember numerous times thinking after it happened, weeks and months after that event that happened back in 2017, I even wondered, along with people around me, how are you coping? How are you dealing? You look like you're still, staying the course and still able to function as an adult, as a dad. And one of the biggest examples that I had in my life was seeing the way you were able to do that. And people, to the point where people were asking me, have they gone through grief? Are they okay? Because it looks like they're okay. Almost to a fault, like, are they still in shock? Do they know what happened? And talking with you and Mom about it, it was clear that what you just said is a testament in the fact that we're going to see him again. Yeah, it sucks. It was hard.
Right.
It was a spear to the gut, but we hold on to the promise of knowing that we're going to see him again someday, and we're going to keep making sure that we move forward and using this as a testimony to others that might have to go through something like it.
Grounded in the word grounded in the word from generations back. This there are scriptures that we go to, we know we can. They're true. They never fail. They're forever settled in heaven, and we draw on those scriptures, and we know that He will get us through those tough situations. And the takeaway from this is we don't know what's tomorrow. We don't know the next minute.
Yeah.
And we've got to be vigilant in doing everything we can with what we've got, because as this song says, I'm going to read these words from this song that puts it all in perspective. I got the call this morning. I can't believe he's gone. Thought he'd be here forever, but one more time proved me wrong. It was just a week ago that I should call and say hello. Now I'm reminded once again, life's a vapor in the wind. Love the people that God gives you. They're a gift from heaven sent. Live and laugh and make some memories. Treasure every moment spent. Because none of us are here forever. That's a proven fact. So love the people God gives you, because one day He'll want them back. Each day the mirror tells a story. I wonder where the time has gone. Children laughing round the table now have children of their own. There may be things you need to say, so while today is still today, you have the chance to hold them close. One more chance to let them know. That powerful?
Yeah.
You've only got one chance. The time is so limited.
No, it's
We
good.
have to live each day as it's our last.
That's good, Dad.
And we've
Yeah.
got to show that to our kids as much as we can, because they
Right.
could be gone at 43.
Yeah, and
Right.
so if you're here and you're battling or walking through something like that, just do it, Jerry said, and stay faithful and keep tight in your relationship with the Lord. I remember for you growing up, there's sickness and some issue, but
Right.
yet you saw faithfulness. For me,
And you guys had something
yeah,
similar.
I remember.
Tell them about it.
When I was young, Dad, you had a lot of physical issues, and so was running a tool and die business and had like a big future ahead. And then sickness came in, and when I was 2, you had your hips.
No, well, when Trustin was 2 years old, a condition hooked onto me and destroyed my hips. That was 1984. He was born in 82. 1984, I couldn't work. My hips were destroyed, both of them. And the excruciating pain of that on an ongoing basis, just all the time, was quite something. In 87, I had them both replaced for the first time. So they were replaced. Well, I couldn't work. And we never expected that. Our dreams were kind of just, forever altered at that point. Because we had dreams. Brenda, I wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom. She wanted 6 kids. Well, that didn't work out. That didn't work out. Here he is. Yeah. So, and so.
I equal 6 kids. Come on.
There
Right?
you go.
There's
There you go.
more.
There you
Come
go.
on.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I like what well, I don't like what Jerry said because it's so true, but it's the fact you don't know what's going to happen. I didn't know when I married Brenda that this was going to happen to me. I didn't know. So we don't know the future, but there's something that I did know. There's something I did know. I knew the future in a certain sense. That God was going to be faithful.
Right.
I
good.
knew the future
So good.
in that regard. And
right.
he has been faithful to us in every single imaginable way through all kinds of different circumstances. Like the circumstance that just happened late last year. We had to shut our business. We couldn't hire employees. They just weren't available. We had customers coming out every which way, but we didn't have people to do the work. So we had to close the business. And that was not in the game plan. We didn't set that up. We didn't plan that.
Yeah.
But you know what we did plan for? God being faithful
right.
every single solitary time.
Yeah.
It's not going to change. He's the solid rock that we build our life upon.
That's it.
So good. We sang it this morning. He won't let us down. He won't.
Yeah.
He won't. He won't. He won't. And sometimes we have to hear it again and again and again, but it's so true.
Yeah, so plans were changed. I mean, you and Mom had totally different life plans, and then kind of a wrench got thrown in the gears. And to me, it's funny that you say you weren't able to work, because I feel like my whole life I watched you work. And so just because you weren't able to work doing the thing that you were planning on doing didn't mean that you weren't working somewhere else.
You're right in the way you say that. It's right, because you can do some things, and I did what I could do when I could do it. And sometimes it was difficult, it was hard, but it didn't matter.
Yeah.
We had, I mentioned my father earlier. I had a father who could work rings around me. He was a hard working man, and I saw that as value in that thing. So as Christians, we have a list of values we should consider and think about and understand. Quite a long list of values, and you can find them in Galatians in the 5th chapter. The fruit of the Spirit. Each one of those is a value that when we plug into our life, we're going to have good things happening.
Yeah.
Well, I'm for one thankful that you learned how to do what you did a different way, how to get things done, how to work hard, how to progress things by communication. You were able to do that through communicating with your son. And by doing that, you made him into a great communicator. I think everybody in this room and watching online can know that he learned by communication.
Yeah.
And that's helped us all up to today.
Well,
So good.
I accept what you're saying, but man, oh man.
It wasn't easy, we know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it was good.
Maybe I should tell you a little something about how it was with him and me when he was growing up.
Go ahead.
Are you up for it?
Yeah, whatever.
Well,
we're way off. We're so far off the notes at this point.
That's okay. Okay.
I must throw or whatever.
So we
Confession morning.
we're going to come back to him because
Okay.
it's important. But anyway, so we did things together because I told you we were around each other quite a bit. And there were jobs to do. We cared for the home, and we had a nice yard, and we had things we wanted to do. Well, and I wanted him working with me. I worked with my dad. I wanted him working with me. But I was kind of brain dead in one area. And because whenever I asked him to work with me, he would say, "How long is it going to take?" And that triggered me. That bugged me, and I wasn't smart enough in those years to just give him the best guess. Oh, it'll take 30 minutes, it'll take 10 minutes, it might take an hour. Because I heard him saying, I don't want to do it. I want to go play with my friends, I don't want to do it. And that kind of just set a bad tone. It set a bad tone. So my advice to fathers here today, don't, kind of examine yourself, look at yourself, and see if you're getting triggered. It's not about them.
No,
it's
true.
about you.
Right.
You've got some kind of issue going on that is misreading the whole thing. And even if he wanted to go play with his friends, because he probably did, that doesn't mean that I should have had a bad attitude about it from that point forward.
Well, I think growing up, it led to a lot of battles that you and I had, and so. Like Aaron was joking, the reason that I think I'm a good communicator is because I was having to argue with this guy most of my life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
we went toe to toe.
Yeah.
We went toe to toe.
I'm just thankful he went this way instead of a litigator as an attorney. I'm nervous about it. I was like, okay, I'm glad he's a
But
pastor.
Enrique talked about it a little bit when he was doing prayer. That as dads, and I now find my kids are now old enough to argue with me. I'm like, wait a minute, when did you get smart? Why are you asking me that question? That as dads, that we have to learn to navigate our emotions. Like we hear the word emotions and we think that's a woman thing. It's not.
No.
We're full of emotions. They just come out differently.
That's right.
And that we, as we're parenting, have to learn how to deal with our feelings and not projecting them on our kids.
Could I say something quick
Yeah.
about emotions? It occurred to me some time ago that emotions put you in motion. Now, maybe you all knew that. I'm maybe dense in that area. But emotions will put you in motion.
Right.
And so here's another way that you need to and I need to kind of think about this. If I'm emotional, if something has got me, I need to examine what direction is the motion. Is the motion towards the fruits of the Spirit? And what it says in Philippians 4 about the proper things to think on,
Right.
is that the direction of the motion I'm going in whenever I get emotional? So we really have some good tools that we can use to avoid the conflict that tends to happen sometimes.
Yeah.
It's good. No, it's really good.
Dad, I know that one of the biggest fights that me and you would find ourselves in was around my vehicles. They said Aaron was constantly putting stuff in ditches.
Yes.
I was doing similar stories.
We can start from the beginning, or we can go a little further.
I don't know,
down the
whatever.
road. I kind of made a write-up here about how that went, so here we go. When, he sees the title on the page, so he knows where I'm at. Well, Trustin was 16 years old, and he wanted a full-size truck for his first vehicle. After all, gasoline in 1998 was $1 a gallon or thereabouts, so a big truck, it was okay. At the time, he was driving around either the family minivan or a white Astro van, a cargo van that our business owned.
With no windows or back seats.
No windows. So
They thought it was safe because I could only have one passenger.
Yeah.
What they didn't know is you could fit like 20 people in the back because there were no seats.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and they'd all be rattling
like
around in the
clowns.
back.
Yeah, it had a V8 in that thing.
Well, neither one of those options, projected the powerful image of a young man. He didn't, minivan, this. So that was no good. So Trustin put the word out to his vast number of friends that he wanted to buy a monster truck. Now, in the realm of teenagers, a monster truck is any truck that was jacked up somewhat and had oversized tires on it. That was what they thought was a monster truck.
Right.
So the word going out, the calls started coming in from all his friends.
Because this was before Facebook or
yeah,
Craigslist.
you had to either look in the newspaper or see it parked in somebody's driveway. So the calls started coming in. Well, the enthusiasm of Trustin's friends to help him find the right monster truck far outweighed the practical nature of the truck they reported back to him. And I imagine you can guess that they had no concern about the price of these things. They didn't care. So I tried to convince Trustin we shouldn't go this route. We shouldn't buy this monster truck that someone else built. But I could not get through to him. It didn't matter. He was determined to do it. We ran from one monster truck or one modified truck to another truck that were for sale by owners who they were trying to unload their junk on a naive buyer. That's what was happening. Finally one day, in the parking lot of our church, a man I did not recognize, and I call him an angel from God, told Trustin that he should not buy somebody else's modified truck, that he should find a stock truck and modify it himself. What a novel idea. Well, the Trustin listened to the man. He listened to him. And the search for somebody else's modified truck ended. And then we went out and we found a 1992 Ford F-150 that was stock that we got to fix up together.
Right.
And that was such an example. And I had a hint of how that was going to work years before, because Trustin was kind of stuck on his pacifier when he was little.
Oh boy.
He was little.
Man, we going way back.
He was stuck. He was stuck on it. I don't know how old he was. I don't know how old was he? 6 months, a year, or I don't know, something. He was little, and he wouldn't give it up. It didn't matter what his mother or I said. He wouldn't give it up. So his mother.
That was three?
It was three. It was three.
This is nowhere in the notes. This is pure gold right here.
Man.
So his mother set him up. And church is a great thing, but it's great for some things you might never think about. Our dentist went to our church. And so his mother got with a dentist and told the dentist, now when you see Trustin today, you kneel down and you tell him he doesn't need that thing. So our dentist kneeled down. I remember it was in the hallway. He kneeled down, got eye level, and told Trustin, you don't need that. You take that thing home and you throw that thing away. He never used it again. He needed somebody else to tell him that it was no good for him, and it wasn't any good for him.
No, I think that leans to something that even now as our kids are getting older, I've done this for your kids a couple times.
Thank God.
That sometimes kids think their parents are stupid.
Right.
They don't want to listen to anything that you got to say.
Right.
My dad never drove a monster truck. He's driving a minivan. I know about monster trucks. I'm 15, right?
Yeah.
But when another man came and gave me some wisdom, I somehow attached onto that. And so that's the importance of community.
Right.
Is because sometimes,
True.
you know, what's the saying that it takes a tribe to raise a child?
It takes a village,
It
right?
takes a village.
Yeah.
And so come on, get them in the village. Get them in and you'll help them throw out their pacifier and their monster
it's
truck
true.
and maybe the wrong boyfriend.
No, it's so true what he's saying, and I'm a living testament to that, because as Dad said, you know, when I didn't see him very much throughout the week, we would see him on Saturdays and Sundays. You know, we still chose to go to church. He still said we are going to church, even when there was a season in our church that there wasn't very much for my brother and I to go to.
Right.
Our youth pastor, the transition happy youth pastor, led through condemnation, through you're going to hell if ...
Dictatorship.
Every week is what we heard. So thank God that we still went to church and we were able to find things that did work for us.
Right.
Drums. We had
Right.
an interest in drums. We were able to connect with somebody in the church that taught Ben and I how to play drums better. And so find what your interests are, what your kids' interests
Right.
are, and lean into it. We've got tons of things, tons of places for you to serve in this place. And you might just be surprised what might strike a chord in your kid in this place, because give them a reason to come and watch. Watch. The Bible says it. Plant them in the house, they'll flourish. Just watch. It will happen.
It's an investment. It costs, but it's an investment. It will not go unrewarded. It will not. Train up a child in the way it should go, and it will not be depart from it. And it's so true. It's an investment.
Yeah.
It really is.
Guys, as we're
Payoff.
talking about building that firm foundation of our homes, what are some of the things that you'd like to just share with the people in the room?
Right.
Well, I think we've dealt with some of that already today. You know, it is true, it takes a village. The problem is, which village are you using? Which village have you created around your child? Which village are you in? Who are you using to support yourself? There's a lot of different villages out there. The world has all kinds of ideas that they will push off on you, and man, some of them are no good. So keep that in mind.
Super good.
Yeah, finding the right people to be around you is super important.
Yeah, for sure.
Dad, we had talked a little bit about how you worked to build some guardrails for me.
Oh, the guardrails.
Yeah.
Guardrails are important, man. You've got to have boundaries. I mean, the children want them, they just don't know it. They want them. They need that security that a guardrail will give them. I mean, I think that's been proven, even technically speaking. But sometimes, and the other thing you have to realize is the guardrail is there to get beat up once in a while. And you'll see it on the road, won't you? There's a car that smashes into it, there's a skid mark on it, or it's crunched a little bit. But that's what it's for. And sometimes kids will run into those guardrails. And now his mother had way better way of dealing with this problem than I had, because they were kind of alike. But when you hit the guardrail, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
It is there, and it's meant to keep them on the road, so to speak. And you can't just fly off the handle and go cuckoo about it yourself. Yeah. They're meant to be there, and sometimes they run up against the guardrail. I remember when he was learning to drive in Michigan, you were allowed to drive at certain times given the classification of your license. Well, he had a curfew. He had to be home by a certain time. He couldn't drive at night in the dark. And we got a call one day, and he was running up against that guardrail. He was supposed to be home. He wasn't home. He was at friend's house, and it was a girl, and there was probably a bunch of girls there. And this was all the way across the county, all the way across the county that I would have had to go get him. And I think I was in bed at the time the call came in. And he's saying, I can just stay here. There's a place for me to sleep. There's going to be other kids here. I'm thinking, oh my, here we're scraping the guardrail right now. What do I do? Do I let the guard down? Nope. I got up out of bed, got in my car. I drove across the county and picked him up, and we had to go back later and get his car. And that was inconvenient. That was, troublesome, but that was maintaining the standard that we had set up.
Yeah.
And we lived through it.
And I remember being really mad because now I look like an idiot in front of all my friends because they're all able to stay.
Yeah.
I'm the only one that here comes my dad at midnight kicking in the front door of somebody's house like, hey, come on, get your stuff, we're leaving, this is against. And I remember being mad in the moment. But now as an adult, I'm so thankful that they didn't let me stay the night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because everybody knows that only leads to problems. And I think that sometimes as parents that we can want our kids to just like us. We want our kids to just think that we're only our friends. And Enrique mentioned it. It's not that we aren't friendly with our children, but as dads, we had a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
Right.
But in those moments, I don't need a friend. I already got friends telling me to do stupid stuff.
Right.
I need somebody to put a guardrail in and tell me, no, you're being an idiot.
Right.
I love you enough to help you.
Right. I loved what Enrique said. It at first hit me a little off. He said, "Be your friend, be a friend to your kid." But what he was talking about is in that moment when they need your ear and not your mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what he was talking about. So there are times when you got to settle down, you got to kind of close the pie hole, so to speak, and just listen as best you can and try to understand what where they're at. Can I go here? Can I go
Yeah, I don't
here?
know what it
This
says.
is-
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know what you
Okay. Well, this has something to do with it. And I'm not trying to stir up anything here. I just want to use this as an example. We all know what DUI means, right? We all know what DUI means.
Driving under the influence.
Yeah. It's a serious deal. I acknowledge that, no problem. But I want to go deeper than DUI, much deeper. I want to talk about LUI, living under the influence. And that's what was going on. When I made the decision to get out of bed and go get him, I was living under a certain influence. As men and as fathers, we all live under an influence. We do not have a choice. An influence will govern our lives, like it or not. The choice we all face, which influence do we put in charge? Who or what is guiding the choices we make every moment, every day, every moment? Are we our own influencer? Do we install ourselves believing we have what it takes to do it all right? Is the world our influencer? Do we listen to the world and let it guide us through life? Or is God and His Word our influencer? Do we seek out what God has to say about things and then adjust accordingly? Well, there is another strategy here. We can pick and choose some ideas from here and there, from ourselves, from the world, from God's instructions. I call it the cafeteria plan for living. Just this and that and the next thing. A little of this, a little of that, cross your fingers, and hope it all turns out peachy when it's all said and done. Doing it far from perfect. And if you don't believe that I did it far from perfect, you can just come down here and talk to Brenda. She'll let you know. That's a true statement. So doing it far from perfect, early in my life, I saw the value of living under God's influence. Or said another way, living under God's authority. That's where we need to be, living under His authority. I decided the Bible had something of extreme value for me, and that I better pay attention to it. And the reason is to avoid major mistakes, and when they're made, because they're going to be made, make corrective action in the right direction. All right? So I decided that the Bible has something extremely important to say. I decided to learn from the lives and stories of people around me. I realized early on that the good and the bad could teach me a lot. And when I say the people around me, I meant, people I knew, my family, even neighbors, people in the church, all kinds of people were people around me. But there were other people around me. And I didn't realize that until I thought about this and I wrote this down. And in fact, I didn't think about it till this was all written down. I was kind of reviewing this. There was more people around me than I really understood at the beginning.
Moses was around me. Jacob was around me. Joshua was around me. Daniel was around me. Samson was around me. David was around me. You know, all those characters from the Old Testament, some of them who messed up big time. Just look at David's life and you'll understand how bad he messed up. But he still had a heart after God. And you know, go read the story. You'll find out what I'm talking about.
So good.
So all those characters, and then into the New Testament, we have well, not all, but well, yeah, even all of them, because even where they messed up, you can learn something. So my encouragement to you is surround yourself with people from the Bible. Learn their stories, know what they did, know how they responded to the things that were going on in their life.
The influence that you talked about there, you chose that influence. You chose that direction of influence. There's a ton of different influences that dads in their homes can choose to go. And you used that influence. It's an investment. You've spoken to that. We understand that it is an absolute investment. You didn't want to get up out of bed in the middle of the night and drive across the county to go pick up your boy from some girl's house. You didn't want to. It's an investment that you did that. And so that's one of the many examples. Dad, there's an example that I was going to see if you could tell about an investment that you guys have had to make whenever I was a teenager and driving around places I shouldn't go.
When you scraped a guardrail?
Yeah, exactly. When we scraped the guardrail a little bit.
Right. Aaron is kind of like the Dukes of Hazzard. He took a little more than the law would allow, right? And in the country, you've got stop signs and there's nothing around, but you got to stop. And the Goshen Township police, they lie in wait and see whether they're going to stop or not.
Right.
Well,
Snakes in the grass, I call them. The police, they're snakes in the grass.
Snakes in the grass, that's it.
They're waiting to
he got more than his opportunities to speed and cruise through stop signs to the point where he lost his license. And they were suspended.
Right.
Well, Mom and I went to Detroit for a
work-related thing for you.
Workshop and left the kids at home. Boys at home. They were older, supposedly responsible. But Aaron decided he was going to go take a little spin in his on his suspended license, and I don't know how he.
You left the keys at home. You left my key. I'm 17. You guys left the keys.
Oops.
I'm just saying,
My
you
bad.
shouldn't have left
Blame
my
it on
keys
them.
at home.
Yeah, blame it on them.
My bad. But anyway, he got caught out of town or in town rather, cruising through a red light or whatever, and got picked up and spent a little bit of time in jail.
Yes.
Of course, we weren't home, and his big brother didn't answer the phone for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Won't go there.
He sleeps in a wind tunnel, so he didn't hear the phone ringing. That's what he told me on the night of his marriage when he got married. But
there you go.
the fact is, you guys weren't there,
Right.
so I had to call somebody to come pick me up because they impounded the car. And so what ended up happening is you guys were out of town. I had to call your dad at 2:30 in the morning. He's obviously asleep. My grandpa's asleep. So he comes across the county to pick me up out of jail so that way he can bring me home. And so that led to an investment, not just by my parents, but now by my grandparents that are now, even when I got married to Whitney years later, my grandma would call me and she said, I prayed for you every day. And I wondered if you were going to make it because so there's an investment there led by influences that I think was a really great thing to hear today. And I do want to say in all seriousness, if you are a dad in this place that doesn't have littles but has biggers, teenagers, and you didn't do it the way we did it, or the way my mom and dad did it, the way Jonathan did it, Jerry did it, it's okay.
Right.
It's all right. Start now.
Right.
Start something now. Change the trajectory of your home now. It will be hard. I won't lie. It will be hard, but it will pay off for years to come if you start something new now. It's not too late, and it's not too hard. It is worth it. It is worth it.
Yeah, I can comment on that real quick. You know, you've probably heard it said that what you sow, you have to reap.
Hello.
No, you do not. You can pray for a failed crop.
There you go.
In some areas. So if you've kind of done some things in the past and it didn't turn out the way you wanted, pray for a failed crop over those actions. You do not have to harvest what you sowed. It's not true when you engage for the opposite to come out. His mercies are new every morning.
Right.
That's what that means. Yeah.
And it's never too late. Joel 22:25 says that God will restore the years that the locusts have eaten. So if you've had some years eaten by some circumstances, He will restore. If you have a repentant heart and ask.
Now be reasonable. Be reasonable about it. We're not going to have 5 more kids. It's not going to happen. Yeah.
But it's never too late to start your own legacy. Never too late to start doing what's right. Today's a good day to start.